Hey everyone, welcome to a new series. This is called Diagramming English, and of course you know me while learning Latin. These sentences will come from First Year Latin by Robert Henley, and the first sentences come from Chapter 1. They're based on Exercise 5. You do not have to be a Latin student to use these videos, because primarily I'm going to be teaching you to diagram English sentences. The last step I'll do will translate them, and it will be translating them into Latin. So for those of you who are learning Latin, these will certainly be helpful, but it's not necessary you learn Latin to go through this video series. So whenever we see an English sentence, the first thing that we do before we're translating it into Latin is analyze it. So we identify the subject, and I always identify the subject by underlining it one time, and I write S above it for subject. And since I'm a Latin teacher and a Greek teacher, I write N below for nominative. And then the next thing we do is identify the verb. And I always underline the verb twice. So she sees. She sees. To diagram an English sentence, you always start with a straight line, which you then divide in two. The subject goes on the left side, and the verb goes on the right side. So that's exactly what we'll do in this situation. We'll start with a straight line and divide it. She sees. We now have this English sentence diagrammed. The last step is to turn this sentence into English. She in Latin is ea, and sees is videt. However, in Latin, you don't always need the personal pronoun. And in the first chapter of Mr. Henley's book, First Year Latin, the pronouns it's assumed that the student doesn't know the pronouns. The pronouns are not yet taught. So we'll just cross out ea and leave the sentence at videt. That T at the end means she, and the vide means sees. So videt means she sees. Let's do another one. In this sentence, we have the sailor sees. Subject of the sentence, underline it one time. Subject of the sentence, nominative case, that's the sailor. What's he doing? He sees too. That's the verb. We've added another word here. This is called an article adjective. An article adjective, there are three of them in English, a, an, the. And they really are adjectives. They describe whatever noun they're in front of. So I usually have an arrow pointing to the noun that it's describing when I'm talking about an adjective, but when I'm dealing with Latin sentences, I typically just cross out the article adjective because Latin doesn't have any article adjectives. So we diagram this sentence. We're diagramming it in English, so we will include the article adjective, but we start with the subject on the subject side, sailor. What's he doing? He sees. And in English, when you're diagramming, an adjective will go underneath the word that it describes. So, the sailor sees. The last and final step for those of you who are Latin students is to translate this sentence into Latin. In Latin, sailor is nauta. Nauta. This is where we get astronaut in English. And sees, of course, we've already learned, is videt. We don't translate the because Latin, the Romans, Latin didn't have any article adjectives. So we just leave that part out. Alright, let's make it plural. The sailors see. Subject of the sentence, sailors. Subject of the sentence, nominative case. What are they doing? They see, verb. And then we have an article adjective. The sailors see. Divide the line. Sailors on the subject side. See on the verb side. Article adjective is the. Sailors in Latin is nauta again, but we add an e. Now we have naute. Now it's plural. Naute, what are they doing? It's videt again. However, since it is a plural noun, we have a plural subject over here, then the verb must also be plural. To do this in Latin, we'll remove the t and instead add in t, and now our subject and verb agree. We have a plural subject, naute, and a plural verb, vident, naute vident. What if they do not see? Well, subject of the sentence, sailors, nominative case. What are they doing? They do not see. This whole thing here is a verb phrase. See is the main verb. Not is an adverb while parsing the sentence. And by the way, when I label the sentences at the top, that's called parsing the sentence. While parsing the sentence, I always circle adverbs. Do is a helping verb. In Latin, there really aren't any helping verbs until much later when we get to passive verbs. So we'll just cross that out. And then, of course, we have the article adjective again, which we'll also cross out since Latin doesn't have any. But you don't have to cross these out if you're in an English class. Okay, subject on the subject side, sailors. What are they doing? They do see. Now that's the helping verb and the main verb. What do we do with the adverb? Well, just like an adjective, it goes underneath the word it's describing. And in this case, it's modifying, not describing, but modifying. It's modifying the verb. So we put not on a slanted line underneath the verb. And then, of course, we still have the article adjective, the. We're going to translate this into Latin, and we have naute. Remember, we're going to get rid of do. We're going to add not, non. And remember, we have a plural noun here, plural subject, naute, so we have to have a plural verb. So we'll choose vident again. Naute, non, vident. There you go. You now know how to diagram a simple English sentence, and if you're learning Latin, you know how to turn it into Latin. If you'd like to learn more about Latin, Greek, their effect on our language, then check out DwaneThomas.com. I also send out a weekly tip of the week, which you can sign up there for on my website. Each Saturday, you'll receive some language learning tip that I've picked up along the way. If you'd like to get that, just check out DwaneThomas.com. Of course, subscribe below, and I'll see you guys next time.